I went from starting my business with nothing at 22 to generating over £1 million in turnover a year in the space of 5 years. And I truly believe it is these key 6 habits that made me hit a 7-figure turnover business annually by the age of 27. And since, to keep building and growing my businesses. Hi everyone, I'm Will Gale, based in the UK, and in this channel we explore all things personal finance, self-development and business. Ultimately, I want to share what I wish I knew upon starting my first business. Now, let's get started. Number 1, resilience and perseverance. In my first year at 22, I basically achieved nothing financially, as depressing as that sounds, but I learned a lot about my business, my sector, the industry that helped propel me forward to the years to come. To share figures, year 1 I achieved no revenue, nothing. Year 2 I generated about 118,000. Year 3 was just under 300,000. Year 4 was just over 600,000, and year 5 was when I crossed into 7 figures for the first time with just over £1 million of turnover. Now, to be clear, this is turnover, not profit, so I had my costs and taxes that came off these numbers, but still numbers I'm immensely proud of. Why am I showing these numbers? Well, if I'd given up by month 1, year 1, I wouldn't have achieved what I have now. I couldn't have achieved what I did in year 5 without the work I put in year 1. There are countless examples of entrepreneurs that have faced the same grind. For example, Elon Musk, he faced numerous setbacks with Tesla and SpaceX. At one point, he literally put every penny he had on the line into those businesses, having to borrow money from friends to pay rent. Ultimately, we can all see his resilience as paying off. Another is Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She faced numerous rejections when first pitching her idea or shapewear to investors, but she refused to give up. Instead, she persisted and eventually secured funding for her business. Today, Spanx is $1 billion company. Now, these are big examples, but for every big example, there are countless small examples like me in my business that didn't go on to become billion-dollar businesses, but multi-million-pound ones. I'm a real believer that if you want what is easy, your life will be hard. I believe the biggest things that hold people back to achieving success is putting in the work, and that is really, really hard when you face setback after setback, which is inevitable. Remember, overnight successes typically take years. I promise you, you're not going to get anywhere without resilience. Number 2, every penny counts. I remember the first few years of building my business, I always had the thought, if only I had more money to invest in the business, I could grow faster or better, spend more money on marketing or growing the team, but thank goodness I didn't. The fact I started with no money meant that I had to problem solve the most cost-effective ways to generate leads, to build a website, to learn about different aspects of the business. And had to do everything myself ultimately. I had no choice but to make every penny really stretch. Now at that stage in my life I had no experience. I was learning as I went, so to have those constraints to forcing that mindset was critical. If I'd had the money and paired that with my at the time inexperience, it would have been very easy for me to waste a lot of money. And to be honest, I wouldn't have learned how to achieve things on a shoestring budget. Being effective with how to spend and invest money in a business is a really important skill to learn and develop. Even now, I always try and create budgets when problem solving so that I don't fall into the trap of throwing money at problems. Number 3, action over analysis. Now, I'm not saying to disregard any analysis altogether. I just think a common trap I on the whole do well to stay clear of is to not overanalyze at the cost of taking action. Of course, you don't want to take reckless action without a degree of planning, but there's a balance between analysis and action that is key to master. A lot of figuring that balance out, in my view, has been to deeply consider what is motivating my analysis. Do I need to figure out basic fundamentals of what I'm trying to do? Or am I actually scared or being lazy about taking action and so taking the route of least resistance by just analysing? For me, I know I can sometimes just keep thinking about something or analysing it at the cost of actually doing something about it. So what I try and do is if I've got 80% of a plan, I just throw myself at taking action because ultimately I'll figure it out quicker if it doesn't work, or I'll discover it's working that creates the momentum and motivation for me to keep going. It is far, far easier to then perfect, evolve and complete the plan as you go, as you have that experience of actually taking action rather than relying on the theoreticals of what you're trying or thinking about doing. Number 4, first principles thinking. This is something I learned from Elon Musk, and that is to break down problems into its fundamental components and then reason them from there. Basically trying to think things through afresh rather than just copy what people have done before, assuming that is the only way to do something. I always want to break the problem down into its simplest parts and then reason from there. If I come to the same solution as everyone else, great, but at times I find I can figure out new ways to do things or new ways of working that are a little outside the box. For example, with Elon Musk's SpaceX, a massive competitive advantage they achieved was in developing reusable rockets, where up to that point it was standard practice, rockets were used once and thrown away. Breaking things down and concluding there was no reason why reusable rockets couldn't be developed is one of the key things that catapulted their success. They could reuse their rockets, saving a huge amount of money in the process, whereas everyone else couldn't. Number 5, lead generation is key. Unless people know you exist, you can have the best product or service in the world, it isn't going to go anywhere. I believe a big reason my business became more and more successful is I always put a huge amount of focus on effective lead generation. Everything feeds off lead generation in my view. People often overanalyze the product and service, spend a lot of money and time developing that, then can't get anyone to use it, or they find out the marketing cost to get each customer is way higher than they thought, and that changed the economics of what they're trying to do. It is as important to know how to find customers as it is to provide or produce the service. You can't be successful without getting both those things right. Getting the customer is the first step to providing what you're ultimately selling. I would even go as far as to say that focusing on the lead generation first is more important. If you focus on creating a website that creates traffic around a product or service, even if the customer can't use it or buy it, you can measure the response rate that you get, even get customers to join waiting lists that help you prove out your ability to get customers. You'll learn first if you can get the customers you want, and that customers actually want what you're offering and how much it's costing you in the process to get those customers. Number 6, sweat equity. I end with what I believe is the most important ingredient you can offer your business: putting in the work and sweat. My motivation to starting my business was 100% to achieve financial freedom, to grow my passive income. But when I started, it was the furthest thing from passive. I had to put in the time to learn, to build experience, to make mistakes, to bounce back, to ultimately evolve the business to generating the income I wanted. And little by little, the goal is always for the business to require less and less of my time, but at the same time for its revenue to grow and grow. I appreciate there may be rare exceptions, but in reality, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. You have to put in the sweat to build the assets you want in life. And even when you build those assets, you have to keep an eye out on them. My conclusion with sharing these 6 habits is hopefully to drill the point that building a 7-figure business for the vast majority of people is not easy, but it is achievable. These habits have been key for me personally, and I want to share a balanced, realistic view on this advice. I've watched so much content, as you probably have, that likes to paint the picture that getting what you want is easy, but the stuff I really connect with is the advice that is realistic. I started my journey not realising at the start how important these habits were. I was lucky that I managed to make it through the difficult process of adapting, overcoming and building these habits by chance. Now with this YouTube channel, for example, I'm recording this, my 5th YouTube video, with a grand total of 3 subscribers, of which 1 is my wife. I know growing this channel will not be easy, however I have the experience, what I've learned with my journey so far, to understand the discipline I need to invest to go from 3 to 100 subscribers, 100 to 1,000 and so on. It will not take months, it will take years to achieve my goals on this. For you to build your trust in me, and I believe it is gonna, it's having that realistic mindset that is really important for me to keep going, to keep trying to build. Thank you for listening. I hope I've earned you subscribing to my channel. Take care.